welcome everyone to episode 4 of the Brand Exchange podcast. My guest this week is Mr. Anand Roy. He is our first Emmy nominee of the show. He is ex-regional director of Disney Music and Live Entertainment in Southeast Asia. He's a founder of Ring of Fire and, of course, senior vice president of the greatest social media app on the planet, Kumo. Anand, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you so much for having me, Yohji. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. I really because we have a lot of entrepreneurs and starters on the podcast and also in our viewership. I really wanted to dig in a little bit at the start of your role and start of your experience past 17 years at Disney. How did that start? How did you get your first ever role at Disney?
Well, it was pretty much straight out of B school, Yohji.
Okay.
Disney was Disney was setting up their India operations in 2004, and I was approached to be a part of the launch team. And Disney had played such a big role in my life when I was growing up. It was a bit of a no-brainer, really, in terms of the decision. In fact,
Okay.
when I was in high school, my yearbook had me as Mr. Most likely to join Disney. So that's how predictable I am. So
Wow. Okay. So what was the first role at Disney? What was your title?
so I joined the marketing team. So Disney in India back in 2004 was going to launch two of their business verticals: the consumer products division and the linear networks division, basically television. So so
Okay.
so I joined the linear broadcast team's marketing division as a marketing executive.
Very great. So you really just sent an application to Disney India because they were coming up and you got an interview and that's how it started?
No, no, not really. So the lady who joined the company as marketing director, she knew of me because of few initiatives that I was a part of in B school.
Oh,
So
great.
so she approached me and said, placement season is coming. You just want to get ahead of it and join this small little company called the Walt Disney Company. I said, tell me more.
Wow. Personal brand building starting in preschool. Wow, my respect. Yeah, I did not know what I wanted to do in preschool, but that
B
is
school, B school, B school, business
B
school,
school. Okay.
B school. Sorry, B school, business school, not preschool, man.
Business. Okay. Oh, that was funny. All right. Yeah, let's keep that spirit up. Preschool would have been more impressive, but B school,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
very
I
entertaining.
mean, I mean, I am a prodigy, but not that much of a prodigy. Yeah.
Okay, B school, business school, everyone. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, 17 years. I have never worked anywhere for 17 years. I think most people listening haven't. So, how did working 17 years at Disney shaped of understanding of what you want to do? I'm sure it has changed at least 17 times, but like, what? How did it affect your life right now?
Right. So I think first off, the reason why Yoji, you and any of your listeners haven't worked for 17 years is that all of you are way younger than I am. That's one. Second, I think what Disney does very well, because it's such a broad company in terms of just the number of businesses that the
Yeah,
company runs, is that they tend to move their executives around a lot, across lines of businesses, across geographies, across roles. So
I
that
see.
that really helps. At least it helped me sort of keep things fresh. I think it would have been a very different story if I was doing the same thing for 17 years. Fortunately, I didn't. Every, I would say, 2 to 3 years, the company moved me to a new role, to a new geography, to a new line of business. So it felt like day one, every 2 or 3 years. So
Wow.
yeah, so in the 17 years I did a lot of different roles, so it never got stale, or more importantly, it never felt like, oh, I've settled into my comfort zone now, and I can now
Yeah.
skate. So I think that was a big plus in terms of what that has done. It shapes your psyche and your operating system profoundly, Yoji. Just
Hmm.
in terms of spending that much time at a company like the Walt Disney Company, first of all, makes you very aware of how important it is to be driven by your values. So your
Oh,
moral
yes.
compass has to be always pointing true north at all times. A relentless pursuit of excellence and settling for nothing less than world class execution. These things become like the base bar to sort of cross when you're working at a company like Disney. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
when you spend that much time at a company like that, across different roles, across different geographies, that becomes a unifying factor, and again becomes sort of impossible after a point to sort of separate from who one is intrinsically.
Very interesting. So it was, did I hear that right? That you almost did not feel like you're working in a large corporation, or at least in a corporate environment, because you always moved within like smaller, I guess, subsidiaries, sections, projects, however you like to call it.
Well, I mean, no, I would not take it that far, because again,
Okay.
Disney is a very process led company, and I mean, you can't escape the Disney brand anywhere.
Hmm.
Whichever geography, whichever business you're in,
Correct.
Disney brand opens doors so much faster. So it's not fair to say that, oh,
Okay.
it was like a startup within a larger company. It's not.
Okay.
The Disney
Yeah,
brand
that's
comes with a lot of heft and pull and processes. And then it's that line from Spider-Man, Yoji, with great power comes great responsibility. When you're working on the Disney brand, there are a lot of checks and balances in terms of things that you can do.
yes.
What is going to affect the brand positively, what is going to affect the brand negatively. So you are always aware that you are a part of the Walt Disney Company, that this is a responsibility, and you need to be bringing your A game every day. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that
it's
makes
it's,
sense.
it's yeah, I think it's just that the challenges changed. So the market
Okay.
that you're operating in changed, the business unit that you're working in changed, the consumer touch point that you were looking to influence changed. So those are the things that sort of changed as you sort of moved up and across the company.
Got it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think not many people get valuable insights from inside Disney, right? So that was very informative. Thank you. Would you think that like today's founders, and you obviously also founded Ring of Fire recently, would benefit from a corporate experience like yours, like even if it's, structured throughout many projects? But what's your take on that? Do you recommend for young starters to take one of those experience first before taking up risky startup journeys?
That's a very interesting question, Yoji, and I honestly believe that this comes down to the individual,
Hmm.
and what she or he is intrinsically made of. I mean, for every Mark Zuckerberg, there is a Elizabeth Holmes.
Hmm.
For every Bob Iger, there's a Carlos Ghosn. So
Yeah.
it really comes down to who the individual is. From my experience, what I can share is that having a corporate experience before one ventures out on their own really helps build one's network, which is so important when you're starting out on your own. When you are coming out of university, your network is quite limited.
Yeah.
So having a certain amount of corporate experience definitely helps with that, especially if your startup is going to be in that field. um,
Right.
Second, it also helps you understand organizational dynamics, which is very important. In terms
Yeah.
of the modern organization is a different organism all its own, in terms of how it moves, how it works, how it interacts within, and especially when businesses start to scale. If the entrepreneur does not have an understanding of that, it then it becomes very, very challenging.
Oh
On the
yes.
flip side, it's very important for the entrepreneur to not let the processes and systems inherent within an organization sort of straight lace them. The comfort of a monthly paycheck also tends to sort of hamstring risk taking. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to sort of balance these things. But again, it boils down to
No,
the
that's very great. Yeah, comfort zone is a dangerous zone, especially when the money
yes,
keeps flowing in. I
yes,
agree with that. Yeah, I think there was one flip side and two tips from Anand here. So thank you so much. I wanna move the conversation a little bit towards social media. And I read yesterday in an article that you mentioned you were quite unhappy with the general social media landscape before you joined Kumu, or still are. But can you, I 100% agree with it. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about your frustration? Like, what do you think is wrong with the world, the digital world?
I would say it was about 2014 to 2015, about that time when I started to feel an increasing sense of disquiet,
Hmm.
around what was happening in the social media space. Just how divisive it was becoming, the ever increasing levels of toxicity, trolling, bullying, so much negativity on the platform.
Yeah.
People getting isolated within their bubbles and within their cones of comfort, if you will, and no one willing to sort of listen to the other side. And this was not what social media was meant to be. And then, to make matters worse, you could see governments around the world starting to weaponize social media,
Oh,
and
yes.
and and that just and it wasn't just one country, it wasn't just one leader. It
Oh, yeah.
just started to
We've just
become
seen it in the Philippines a few months ago. Yeah.
exactly, exactly, exactly. And it started to become more and more of a sense of disquiet for me, like I said. And being a part of Disney, just the way the ecosystem is right now, the content providers don't really influence the way these platforms operate anymore,
Okay.
because platforms are so big. They are so big, they are like a government unto themselves. And in some ways, the content providers are actually enabling this behavior. Every time they sort of advertise on these platforms, every time they sort of spend money on these
Right.
on the platform. So it was increasingly becoming very difficult for me to rationalize that I am potentially a part of the problem here, and I'm not doing
Okay.
anything to sort of address this. So those were the pain points that I was grappling with over the past few years.
Yeah, that's great. That makes a lot of sense now. Even if not only Kumu is called Disneyland of social media, but like really taking the role from content provider to having kind of the steering wheel of the ship of the entire platform in your hands to just, might help the problem. Makes a lot of sense. Wow. Okay. That is a great purpose. Yeah. They're lucky to have you. What's your personal relationship with social media? Do you still use it? Do you have it installed on your phone? What's your engagement with it?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Again, the space that I'm in and that I've chosen to be in, I can't really say that, no, I'm going to become a digital hermit.
Yeah.
So I do have them, but I use them primarily as news feeds. So I follow news platforms and content creators that I respect. And yeah, it's how I keep track of what the competition is doing.
Yeah, okay, no, that's fair enough. I realized 3 years ago that I'm spending, like, when Apple introduced the time, I don't know what's it called, the time spending thing
Yeah,
on the
screen time.
home screen. Screen
Yeah.
time, there you go. And I realized I spent like over an hour every day looking at Facebook. So I just, for 3 years now, Facebook and Instagram is just not on my phone anymore. I check it on my computer, but it's much less addictive, right?
Smart.
So
Yeah, smart. Yeah.
that's the best solution that I came up with for my personal life, of just, if I need a break, then I still try to spend some time on LinkedIn or something where the entertainment is mixed with some form of educational
Yeah.
things, and not cats on skateboards or whatever the hell you find
Correct.
these days, right?
Correct. Correct.
Oh yeah, the world is going crazy. Yeah, I think one more thing for Kumo is, besides having the steering wheel of changing the social media landscape as itself, what other key initiatives are you hoping to achieve with the Kumo team?
Right. So, what first attracted me to Kumu when I heard about them was the fact that their mission was to create a positive, inclusive, safe space on the internet where
Yeah,
people could be themselves, which in itself just blew my mind.
that,
And I thought, oh my God, this is what social
yeah. How
media
is that possible? Yeah, yeah.
was meant to be.
Right.
Before we all went down this rabbit hole, and now we are wherever we are. And then when I met Roland and Rexy, I mean, it's very difficult to not get moved and influenced by their passion and sense of mission.
I
so
agree.
so so Yoji, the mission still remains that.
Right.
I think, I mean, we are just getting started, and the values that Kumu stands for, this purpose that Kumu has, it's relevant, resonant, and absolutely vital to the world beyond the Philippines, for sure.
Right.
So we have miles to go before we sleep. Really,
Yeah.
first we establish ourselves in the Philippines, and then we expand progressively, and become that safe space on the internet where there's no negativity, there's no bullying, there's no trolling. Honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, if John Lennon was still alive, I think he would have been a part of Kumu by now.
Yeah. Yeah, if anyone who's listening is interested, like, Kumu is basically almost like a Kumu police, which is a mix of like auditors and the community itself, and they basically have the possibility to report almost in no time any negative content. So
Yeah.
it's really for everyone who is shy, or wants to try something new. Kumu is probably the best place to just get started, and then
Yeah.
if you learn to go around with your negativity online, then you can also excel on other platforms. But Kumu, yeah, and I've never seen something like this. I did not know it was possible to have a good place on the internet anymore.
Yeah, yeah, no, and thanks for saying that, Yoji. I think also what we found really emboldening is the number of marginalized groups who find comfort and acceptance on Kumu. Just that by itself is a win for me. I mean, honestly, it is a challenging time for people who are not part of the homogeneous majority.
Mm,
So the fact that marginalized groups, vulnerable groups, under threat groups are finding a safe space on the platform to sort of be themselves, to sort of spread a message of welcoming, of positivity. This is very important. I mean, we really want to take Kumu forward in that and spread as fast as possible, so we can become a safe harbor for anyone and everyone.
safe harbor, yeah, steering the ship. We have so many sea analogies today. Okay, yeah, very nice. Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's how I knew Kumu from day one, and I was as amazed as you were talking to Rexy and Roland at the very first day. So, please continue doing what you do. Yeah, I want to steer the conversation a little bit from marketing or online social media to branding. And first, a brand like Kumu or a brand like Disney, right? So obviously they want to use social media to engage with their customers or their users. And then obviously if you have a platform like that, you want to promote certain things, product, services, promotions, whatever. So you have some pool, you have usage of advertisement in general. But what do you believe like is one of the bigger misconceptions about brands? Because obviously the majority of brands are just like abusing social media for a huge billboard advertisement platform. So like, in terms of actually using platforms like that to connect to your customers versus using it as billboards. What do you think like are the biggest mistakes from brands these days being online on social media?
I mean, I think you have detailed out that first mistake that they do very well.
Mm,
I think fundamentally a lot of brands are still looking at social media as a one-way communication platform, which it absolutely is not. Social
yeah.
media is a way where you engage with your fans, with your users, with your consumers. It's where you establish a two-way dialogue, and I think that fundamentally a lot of brands are not understanding. Second big misconception, which if I may sort of speak about it, is that a lot of brands tend to think that all virality on social media is good virality, because of the short term bump that it
Hmm.
you and I honestly believe that is not the right approach, because
Hmm.
again, so Disney had this concept of brand deposit and brand withdrawal, in terms of basically we have this concept that what you are doing, is it going to deposit into the brand's equity or withdraw from the brand's
Okay.
equity. Now in the short term, a sort of a viral moment on social media might sound great, because suddenly across all of the metrics that marketers like to measure, views, click-throughs, impressions, all of those have gone up. But then if the virality has happened because of the wrong reasons, you have actually made a brand withdrawal over the long term. You have actually damaged that that conversation that you were meant to have with your user, with your consumer, with your stakeholder, and it just makes that next engagement that you're planning tinged with that much more cynicism, that much more
Mm,
negative, and that just steers you away from that space of genuineness and authenticity that
mm.
every brand needs to strive to be at.
Wow. Okay, that was great insight. Yeah. Brand deposit and withdraw. Okay, I that's the first time I heard it in this way. I mean, obviously we also use it for like brand equity, measurements, but that's an interesting way of putting it. I like that a lot. Yeah, I think like I mean, branding is such a broad term, right? And then I think you mentioned earlier the importance when it comes to a company like Disney of like always, steering to the North Star and having like the key values and like the initiatives just like mentally like, hammered in, if you may say so. Like, did you like came across Disney's brand strategy, so really the foundation of it, like at the early stage? Like, can you? I'm really interested. Could you like share us a little bit about how brand strategy is communicated within Disney? Like, do you get a frequent update every year or so about key initiatives? Did the values change? Did the fusion with Marvel has changed any, bigger perceptions, anything? Like, sorry, I asked 5 questions, but please go in with, with any of them.
Right. Brand equity is very important in terms of Disney's priorities, and like it's done every year. So Disney conducts a brand equity study and a brand
Okay.
tracking study every year at the global level, at the regional level, at the national level, and the studies are not just at the Disney brand level, but then they are at the sub brands level as well. So Marvel, Star Wars,
Hmm.
Mickey, Disney Princess, Frozen, so it really drills down into what the brand equity is of the mother brand and the sub brands, and how has the last year been compared to the previous year, and what is the audience perception, and how it has gone up or gone down. It then drills down further by line of business, so then the key brands that say the linear broadcast team is working on, that the consumer products team
Hmm.
is working on, the studios business, which is
Right.
the movie theatrical business, the
Okay.
the digital interactive business. So these are annual exercises which are very detailed, which are very thorough, which and which give every executive a very clear perspective of how the Disney brand and the key sub brands in their line of business and their territory, how the brand is performing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just really want to repeat what Anand just said, because I think that's something that most people don't understand about branding, is that it is a continuous, consistent effort of
Yeah,
building and rebuilding. So, like, even if you have a smaller startup and you don't have a bunch of different like categories and directions and offices and teams, is that having at least once per year a check, and like that doesn't mean you have to hire McKinsey to make a big case study, but just to ask 20 people how they have felt at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, and if the company's brand feeling has changed for good, for better, for negative, will give you really, and I'm going to our ship analogy, the compass to where the heck you want to go, right? And where you have to go, because it's all about the customers. Like if, the people in for Disney princesses feel that something, has some issues with it, some people in some country find it offensive, then obviously they need to address it and also communicate that value differently, because they said, okay, the world is changing. We can't do what we want. We have to go with the customers. So because we are doing this for them. And I think no matter how small, how big, that is a very, very important lesson for everyone to learn, to reanalyze as much as you can and really adapt and evolve.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. And just to sort of add on to that with an illustration, Yoji. So when live action Beauty and the Beast released worldwide, the one with Emma Watson, the movie had a same-sex relationship among some of the side characters, Gaston and his right hand man. Because of that, the movie was originally banned in Malaysia, and then
okay,
and then there was a very public battle between Disney and the censors in Malaysia. A lot of press. Finally, the movie went through, but that scene had to be edited.
cut,
So
okay,
so so when the brand tracking study for the year after that came out, the incest scores had dipped a little in Malaysia because of
hmm,
this. So then
of
so then
course,
the year after that, the company had to be very deliberate in terms of how the Disney Princess franchise was approached and treated in Malaysia to get those scores up. Again,
yeah,
which sort of underlies the challenges that a global multinational faces,
oh yes,
when they go into different countries which have different value systems, different tolerance levels, and but you have to still stay true to your value, so that level of calibration is something that
hmm,
that is an ongoing process. And the brand tracking study is one of those ways, where you can see how you're doing on a continuum.
okay, great. Yeah, just that was perfect. Again, I just would like to recap it one more time for the other audiences. So, if you really work in regional or international markets, like you cannot be afraid of like just doing what you do. Okay, there is no way anyone has ever achieved something that is everyone is happy with. Like you'll find a country that likes the exact opposite of something else. I mean, like Japan and Indonesia, for example, like were the complete opposite countries in any way that I can imagine. So, and they're in the same region, right? So you really like you cannot be scared of it, of any action. So be true to what you do, be true to what you are. And then if you run into any concerns or any like feedback that has any negative like reaction to it, then that's okay. You can always fix it as long as you don't purposely insult or try to hurt people. You're doing your business, right? So I think that's a very valuable lesson for everyone. And hearing that from a international corporate level was very interesting. Thank you for that additional comment. One last question to sorry, what was the name of the brand recap deck or report? The brand report?
Yeah, so it's called the brand equity study.
The brand equity study. So that was, did you just receive a PDF every year and you
Oh,
just
no, no,
had to
no, no,
read
no,
it?
no.
Okay.
There there was an in-person presentation, and then
Wow.
after the
Okay.
in-person presentation, the deck would be sent over. But
Okay.
yeah, with
That makes a lot of
without
sense.
fail,
Yeah.
without fail, every year there'd be an in-person presentation.
Okay, yeah, I even recommend it to known corporate structures to do that in person and then send it out after because, core key values and like words can be completely misunderstood from people to people. I mean, if I say beautiful and I don't know, Anand's wife says beautiful, it probably mean completely different things of what the term beautiful means. So
No, no, and it's
if
not just
you,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's not just that, Yoji. Sorry to interrupt you, but
no,
I mean,
please,
when you just send it as an attachment, I mean, I know I have not read all the attachments that have got.
yeah,
And it just does not happen.
of
So
course,
and for a company to sort of impress upon how important this is to the DNA and to the future of the company, these are the things that have to be done. You make the time for an in-person presentation. The managing director of the territory makes the time to be there in that meeting, so that she or he is setting the agenda from the top down. That if she's not busy enough to be in the room for that, I don't have an excuse.
right,
So
right.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, great. Wrapping up the brand strategy branding section of our conversation, I really wanted to ask, having such a huge experience with brand strategy documents, you can call it equity report or whatever, but it is brand strategy. It is to build a core foundation, values, etc. for a company. And we're trying to preach it now for 7 years, and it is hard to tell people like, hey, spend a little bit more time, a little bit more money at just the beginning, so the entire team is able to pull on the same strings, right? So,
Yeah.
can you help me convince some audiences? Like, do you have a good comment of what might convince a founder or someone who's like has 10, 20 employees of creating a one-pager brand strategy document that just sums up why the heck do we all wake up in the morning?
Because it's a competitive advantage. Just fundamentally, I mean, it'll be very rare for anyone in the business slash corporate slash entrepreneurial space that they are the only ones selling their product or selling their service. And even if they are for a bit, eventually someone else will come in. How do you differentiate yourself? I mean, after a point, the product and the service requirements will become hygiene, and that's that differentiator that kicks in is the brand. And I don't want to take I don't want to take any names now, but then you will see so many companies, because they have overinvested on their brand, they can actually afford to be a little slow on innovation. There
Hmm.
is a company X, which makes phones. Yeah.
Yeah,
They are never the ones who are rolling out the new features. It is
yeah,
always
yeah.
brand Y who is rolling out the new features. But then when brand X does it, they make such a song and dance about it. It's
Hmm.
like, oh my God, like you you are the second coming of Christ. But
Hmm.
they are not the first person who has done it. Brand Y, brand A, brand B, they have all done it at least a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
The reason why brand X is able to do it is because of the power of their brand, and because they spend so much time, effort, money on
Yeah,
making their brand unique, making their brand distinctive, and making their brand aspirational, which then allows them to say that, okay, I'm just going to see which of these innovations are working that all these other guys are doing, and the one that I think I might like, that one I will roll out 2 years later, and that one's
mm,
going to give me another bump.
correct. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
completely down to the brand.
correct.
So
Yeah,
it is that last legal unfair competitive advantage that is available to business today. So and so
yeah,
so and companies which sort of start investing in their brand early can then do a few years down the line, or actually even much sooner, if they can build a clear brand USP, they can do what phone company X is doing.
Definitely, yeah. On a completely unrelated note, I read that I think from 2024, Apple is planning to not put any logos anymore on any of their stores. So that's on a completely unrelated topic, right? So it's
Oh,
really just having so many brand entry points, right? You can survive with a store without a name. I mean, that's just, brand equity at the masterfulness level.
great, great. No, and even Nike has been doing it for so long. I mean,
Yeah.
when is the last time that you've seen the swoosh with Nike written under it?
No, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, they don't even do that anymore. So I mean, that is when the brand has reached omnipresence level,
correct. Yeah,
where your visual identity, your visual grammar is so unique that you don't need the brand anymore to sort of justify it, and that
right,
is just amazing, because basically then you get to a point where there'll be spaces which might not be yours, but then people will think, oh,
right.
must be
Yeah,
yours. And Yoji, I have experienced myself. So like when we used to do the brand equity studies, one of the questions used to be, which Disney movie have you enjoyed over the past 12 months? And
okay.
you would regularly get answers like Shrek, Tom and Jerry, How to Train Your Dragon, regularly. This is again that brand omnipresence,
Wow, okay.
where basically people start to associate animation, family entertainment with Disney, even though we had nothing to do with it. And our competitors spent millions of dollars making the film, marketing the film, but all of the positive brand attribution came to us,
Wow, okay,
which
okay.
is
Very
which is again
interesting.
the power of the brand.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
where your brand identity, where your brand definition becomes so strong, starts to define the genre. So then when your competitor does something good, it gets attributed to you.
wow,
what
yeah,
what other part of the business can you do
okay.
which can generate a result like this?
Yeah, I guess besides kidnapping employees, that will not be a chance.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow, okay, that's an amazing example. I never heard that. Bravo, bravo. Very, very great. All right, we went definitely overboard with our podcast. I would love to continue for 2 more hours, but we both have important roles to fill. So one last topic. You founded in 2019 a nice COVID startup called Ring of Fire. It's a content company. You are officially now in the club of founders and entrepreneurs of, also starting your own thing on the side. So I would love to hear about Ring of Fire. Could you tell me and the audience a little bit something about it? And we would love to know what your plans are.
Sure. So first off, I started Ring of Fire in 2021.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Well, basically after I left Disney and before I joined Kumu. So
Okay,
so Ring of Fire is a content company. We are looking to bring stories and storytellers from the Ring of Fire countries and the Pacific Rim to a broader and a global audience. The time that I have spent in East Asia and Southeast Asia has allowed me to sort of meet remarkable storytellers and content creators, and get acquainted with amazing stories which need to be shared at the global level. And basically what Ring of Fire is doing is finding those stories, working with those content creators to take their stories to a global audience using digital platforms and digital techniques.
great.
We have just launched our first show. In fact, just last Saturday, the show is called Ship of Myths. Another ship based anecdote. I apologize, but basically it's an audio drama which brings to life myths, legends, and tales from this part of the world. It's available on Spotify, Apple, and every other major podcast platform. And a new episode drops every Saturday morning. For
Great.
those of your listeners who are in the Philippines, Yoji, the episode that drops this coming Saturday is on the Bakunawa. So
Okay.
definitely check it out.
All right, we will include the link in the below in the YouTube section. That's amazing. I'll definitely have a listen and check your stories out. I mean, that's just another, arm again to support stories from Asia and Asian content creators. So I definitely think there are a lot of stories that no one has even heard of. And yeah, I'm very excited to check some of them out. For our very last section, Anand, being, having that experience, being a founder now, being with a game changer like Kumo, would you like to give our audience any last tips from your experience that might help them gain their own?
One, don't be afraid to dream. Never stop believing in yourself, and be brave. Being an entrepreneur is scary as hell, and there will be almost on a daily basis you will have existential questions in terms of what I'm doing, why am I doing it. But it's important to be brave, and never stop believing in yourself. There are a lot of things that we need to do to sort of fix the path that the world is in right now, and you can and should be one of the forces for that positive change. And the world needs you to sort of believe in yourself, and keep dreaming big, and keep dreaming of a world that we'll be proud of leaving to our children and their children.
Thank you so much. Guys, please listen to our first Emmy nominee, ex-Disney and Senior Vice President of Kumu, Anand. That was so great. I would love to continue, but let's keep it with that and catch up next year again for round two. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Yoji. This was fun.